Thom Hartmann here on the news. You need to know this. This could be a heck of a year for progressives. All across America, grassroots progressives are building a network for political action. Borrowing a page from the Tea Party, which at the local level took over hundreds of Republican precinct committee positions, thus nominating far-right politicians for primaries that then trickled up and shifted the entire Republican Party to the right, progressives this year are doing exactly the same thing. Led by the organization Candidate Project, there are now nearly 8,000 progressives around the nation who have pledged to run for office on local, state, and federal levels on progressive platforms. This is how real political change happens, from getting active and working to change the system from within. Let's keep it up. The jobless are screwed. As nearly 13 million Americans look for a job, federal funding to retrain American workers and prepare them for jobs of the 21st century is drying up. Funding for job training programs across the country is down 18% from 2006 levels, even though there are 6 million more unemployed Americans today. Funding for counseling for the unemployed, like resume guidance and job interview coaching, down 13% since Bush was president. In fact, funding for job retraining for Americans is roughly half of what it was just 10 years ago. So now, even though the economy is slightly improving, businesses are having difficulty finding American workers who are trained and qualified to handle the new jobs. President Obama's budget proposal called for a massive increase in job retraining programs, increasing funding to nearly $3 billion a year. Studies show this is a good economic investment, as every dollar spent on retraining unemployed Americans for new jobs yields as much as $8 for the local community. However, multimillionaire Congressman Paul Ryan's Republican trickle-down austerity budget once again slashes funding for federal job retraining programs. Under their proposal, it's far more important to give a $3 trillion tax break to the super rich than to give working Americans new job skills. In the best of the rest of the news, Republican trickle-down austerity budgets and laws at both federal and state levels are crippling public sector employees. Since President Obama took office more than 3 years ago, more than 600,000 government workers, firefighters, cops, teachers have been laid off, mostly in Republican-controlled states. According to Reuters, that's the worst 3-year stretch for public workers in our nation's history. Both Ronald Reagan and George W. Bush increased the number of government workers during their administrations to fight off a recession. As part of Mitch McConnell's one-term president strategy, Republican lawmakers have forced President Obama to lay people off. So despite 25 straight months of private sector job creation, the unemployment rate is still higher than it should be because of hundreds of thousands of out-of-work public sector workers. The Republican plan to stop the economic recovery is working. Republicans have forced the White House to back away from forcing companies getting federal money from disclosing how much they spend to get more federal money. The Hill is reporting that an executive order forcing federal contractors to disclose their election spending was ditched by the White House and likely won't be issued until after the election. There is democratically sponsored legislation in both the House and Senate that would force big government contractors to disclose who they are and how much money they're spending to get more government contracts. Unfortunately, Republicans are blocking those bills. So here we are on the verge of a multi-billion-dollar election for the first time in American history, and the military-industrial complex that Eisenhower warned us about is buying our politicians, and Republicans are working to keep it secret. Our democracy is in peril. Facing a recall election, Wisconsin Governor Scott Walker is not helping himself out with female voters. Last week, Governor Walker signed into law more than a dozen bills against women and dropped the mention of it into the black hole of holiday coverage. Among the newest laws is a repeal of the equal pay law that lets women sue for gender pay discrimination. He also signed into law a bill banning abortion coverage in the new health insurance exchanges, except in cases of rape or incest, and a bill forcing sex education teachers to push abstinence. Most egregiously, he signed a law that would send doctors to prison if they don't force a woman wanting to discuss abortion to do it all alone. No husbands, parents, or partners allowed. Women in Wisconsin now have fewer rights than children when seeing a doctor. Speaking out against Walker's war on women, Sarah Finger with the Wisconsin Women's Health Alliance said that these laws really turn back the clock on women's health, safety, wellness, and economic security. Senator Jim DeMint gets it, and he doesn't get much. In a candid interview with the Republic Report, DeMint acknowledged that the root of the problem in American government is lobbying. When asked by investigative reporter Lee Fong about the influence of K Street, Senator DeMint responded, saying, "There is a problem, Everyone who comes to Washington wants more from government. Of course, that's coming from a guy who's raised over $6 million in campaign contributions since 2007, including tens of thousands of dollars directly from the Koch brothers. Pot, meet kettle. And finally, Fox News says neo-Nazi gangs are civil rights groups. Over the weekend, an Orlando Fox TV station produced a story about the rising tensions in Sanford, Florida, where 17-year-old Trayvon Martin was shot dead and his killer, George Zimmerman, still walks free. Now, a gang of neo-Nazis, calling themselves the National Socialist Movement, as in Nazi, is patrolling the streets of Sanford armed with handguns. Fox gave a platform to this Nazi group, calling it a civil rights group, and interviewed its leader without reporting that he says Adolf Hitler is our Führer, the beloved Holy Father of our age, a visionary in every respect, or that in another venue he said the Constitution was written by white men alone, therefore it was intended for whites alone. The National Socialist Gang, I guess you could say they're right at home on Rupert Murdoch's airwaves. And that's the way it is today, Monday, April 9th, 2012. Thom Hartmann here on the news.